Welcome in. We're contemplating, should we get the hat or should we just leave it? It's been a bit cold here, actually. It's been nice because it's so warm, always, usually. And so it's quite nice to just have like a warm, feel like a pants on, like such a thing. So in this channel, we are working very closely to balance the masculine and the feminine. And so the way that you balance the masculine and the feminine is such an art form. Just look at the confusion in most couples. You can see that it's not just, and there are many experts that say that, you know, do it this way and that way, and they come across and they have all the tools and the. But there is an alignment between your knower, which is the masculine, because it is two different perspectives. This is what people need to get when it comes to spirituality. Many beings want to get this, but it's like it's two different perspectives. The getting a mate, let's say, and getting a partnership from a particular frequency of, you know, that frequency, you know, that because you've been there, and that frequency, you can reverse that. So that is the frequency when you are in the dualistic perspective. You seek outside. You seek outside for the gratification, for the, you know, there is a projection of power sort of outside to whatever you are relating to. And then you are, you know, you're behaving in a particular way because of that situation. And so when you look at the other perspective, which is what we are advocating for here, is the holistic perspective, which means that you can't just say that you're holistic. That doesn't make you holistic. You have to actually mean it. And you can read that. That can be read energetically. But there needs to be a reversal. You can't do that from the dualistic viewpoint. That's what we say, perspective. The viewpoint of the dualistic perspective, right? And so that's why what the holistic perspective does and the way that you shift is actually not, this is the thing, it's actually not, it's not that straightforward, really, you know, because there are many pitfalls. Let's see here. Let's see if we, what comes here. We'll see. So this reversal, we were not sure, I'm not sure exactly what we were going to draw. Let's see if that comes back. But this reversal is from the dualistic, yeah, that's right. From the dualistic perspective. So from the dualistic, let's see here. This is the dualistic perspective. And that means also your feelings. So you have to pay attention to your feelings to be able to identify this and where your stance is. That means that you have to actually have gone past your trauma. So the first layer is usually to just get the body, process the body and all of that. So most people start here in the dualistic perspective. We did. And then we transitioned. And we figured out what this is. And so there is the this, meaning we know a system to get into alignment, to receive higher knowledge, and then we have downloaded this system to take people over to the holistic perspective. So this is the holistic perspective. It's a completely different perspective, so they don't touch at all. And this is what people call non-dualism also, is here. It's the same, right? Non-dual. But of course, the system needs to, within the language, they need to have the non-dual instead of what it actually is. You know what I mean? Like, you see? It's like, why do you need to sneak your way in there with your focus? You see? Pay attention. What's being used and how it's being used and what you are using. What words are you using most of? Right? Is where you're going. Non something is going to take you to the non, or to that something, not to the, you know what I mean. Okay, so this transition from this to this, first of all, you have to have been fed up with the dualistic perspective, fed up with the loops, fed up with all of the games, the manipulation, and just like, you know what? I'm done with that. That's what we are. We are fed up with it. We don't want to deal with anyone that does that type of life anymore. It's very simple. It's just like a criteria, and that we sort of stumbled on top of this in a way. We were just following our body. So delicious to listen to Gaia when she's raining just behind us. It's so wonderful. Listen how she responds. There is a relaxation. And this is the thing also. From this perspective, there are a whole bunch of rules that you should behave and should not behave. In the holistic perspective, we are actually truly, it's a different perspective of how to view things. And so in this transition, usually you would have to have had enough, and then you start this transition. This transition period, some beings have tried this and failed because they haven't seen the truth of what's actually going on in their environment, what's actually moving the needle, so to speak, energetically. They haven't figured that piece out. And that is deliberately not been taught to people to make them more conveniently swayed by marketing, by whatever, right? And so it's a whole system that is at play here that feeds and builds itself. That's what it does. That's the dualistic perspective. And this is why it's a very individual game. And the majority of who has decided this is where we want to live, then the world shifts. But what you can be sure of is that you can make the decision now to shift. Because now we have the map of how to go from here to there. Because before we had A Course in Miracles, right? We had, which is a wonderful calibration tool. But that was misunderstood completely. And so many beings started that, didn't understand anything, and just casted it aside, not knowing what it truly was and what gift that is for your alignment to get to this. A Course in Miracles is an attunement program specifically for people, for beings that have had the training of the Western world, the Western training, the Western mistraining, call it what you want. But the truth is that there has been things not taught, so that becomes hidden. And when you're in this perspective, you don't know what's hidden. The whole point of this is to see the reality of how you play and how you play this human game and how you play it in connection with the rest of the world, which also means the feminine, which is Gaia, which means that everyone that is taking advantage of Gaia somehow is not connected to Gaia, which means they're in the dualistic perspective, which means they're not embodied. They are still operating, let's pretend this is a globe right now. They're still operating as if the soul is sort of hovering here and they are sort of receiving from the soul. The whole purpose is that you realize not just that you are the soul, but that you actually practice the very things that needs to be practiced in order to be in alignment with someone that lands their soul. That's how simple it is. That's this perspective. It is very simple, but to walk this path takes courage, because you may have to go through a lot of things that you have learned here that is not correct energetically. And that can only be felt through the body. Body is connected to Gaia. It's built up of the same thing. We come from Gaia. So whenever you actually should be considered a responsible human being, look at your political leaders. To be able to read this becomes super critical, because then you know who is connected to Gaia truly. Right? If this is Earth right now, if this is Gaia, then beings that are like here and they're not feeling their body. Look, this is their soul, sort of from the neck up. They're still in dualism. What does that mean? It means they haven't landed their soul. They're not embodied. They're not fully themselves, you can also say. If they can't feel their bodies, like, who is there? Who's there operating that machinery? It's just on autopilot. Don't be on autopilot. There's one very important skill that you can develop, and that is the number one skill that is important to make this jump. It's not really a jump. It may seem like a jump if you don't know the way, because then it feels like you're jumping, because like you don't even know what it looks like from where you are sometimes. That's why you need things like A Course in Miracles to guide you there. You need to be guided there. You need to be shown from something that's hidden, you have to make it visible. The hidden needs to be made visible in order for you to reach this place. And that also means that whatever is in the body needs to be visible. That means you, the soul, you are the soul, you are the consciousness that are receiving this. It's not very complicated. You are the one receiving this and can do something about it. Simple. And so, if you're operating the body like this, you are in the dualistic perspective. It doesn't matter what you call it. You can be a holistic therapist, but if you're operating your body like this, like everyone else, you are still in the dualistic perspective. Even if you think and you want to be here and pretend that you're here with the smiley faces and the butterflies and the love and the hearts and the 777 and all of that stuff, that's pretending to be there. But some are there. Right? There's always that too. Some are aligned there. Right? But know where you're at. That's the most important thing in this game. And why is it important to go here? Because here you have more energy. Simply put, here you have directed your energy so that it flows. If this is your head, this is a person, you have made sure that your energy goes, flows, and replenishes you, and Gaia comes up again, and you are your own self-sustaining cell. And there's particular ways to operate the body that you know. It's very easy to read for you when you know how this works, when you calibrate. But you have to calibrate, otherwise you won't even see it. Because you won't see it until you do see it. And it's a calibration. And that's something that you just have to keep doing every single day. That's why there's lessons every single day, right? That's why that's advised, to get you over to this perspective. When you are aligned like this, you operate like a normal human. This is what's crazy. It's because everyone here is not normal. Everyone in a dualistic perspective is literally a little bit cuckoo. And that's the proof, actually. And you can only make sense of this through your own body and read this. When you pay attention and you actually care about yourself enough that you do the right thing for you in this life, not finding another person that's disconnected in order for you to learn that you have to connect to your own stream. When you connect to your own stream, then your movie starts. And when you have learned a way to sustain this permanently, then you're living your dream life. That's how important this is. And when you're here, in the holistic perspective, you have more health, more everything. Everything works better when you have more energy. It's just logical. It's just logical. Everything is better when you have more energy. That's when you actually can sustain your life longer than what you currently do in the dualistic perspective. Because the dualistic perspective is decaying energy. Because you're putting on, as more as you get older, you're putting on more weight and more weight and more weight on the body. So that the difference, because you're hiding stuff. You're not making this, that's why it's a sin to hide. You just become twisted. It's not like you're sinning against God. It's not like that. That's not reality. The reality is much more simple in frequency, because you're destroying for yourself by staying put in the dualistic perspective. That means you're just not growing. That's what it means. You're just going around in loops. Loops until you have depleted your energy, and then you're deciding that, okay, fuck it, I better get myself another body. You know? And maybe your body is decaying a lot by that. It's normal to have a lot of energy. It's normal. That is a normal human being. That is someone that does something correct. And believe it or not, everyone that does it correct does operate in this perspective, but they might not know it consciously. They might be unaware of it. You know, there are many beings that have achieved great things. That's what this does. That's why many beings you have seen started reading A Course in Miracles, and then their life started making sense. Marianne Williamson was one. There are many others. I know, because I've read their books when I was in the dualistic perspective. And I know of this because I have studied a lot of this. And I know what it takes to create a magical life. And if you're interested to join us, there is a link in the description. That's what we wanted to share for today. Super simple, but very important. Very important. And there is a process in this transition. Once you have acknowledged that what we're talking about here is truth, and you have also identified that you are one of them, then you know that you have some work to do to get into this perspective. Right? And so, when you have decided, there is a clarification process. There are many beings that you need to talk to and sort of make amends with. It's sort of like an AA type of thing, you know? Like you have to clean up the energy in order to move on. That's just common sense. If you want to clean your energy and you want to actually claim your energy, you can't have anything in your closet, you know? For your own sake, because you want to be a fully functioning human when you get how this works. And so that's one stage, and then you can go into other stages, other more spiritual stages where you feel alone and isolated, and you walk through those feelings, and then you walk through all of the feelings that come up for the body, basically, whenever it comes up. You prioritize that, and you develop good habits for the soul to land. That's important. You have to watch your diet then. You can't just eat whatever and expect higher consciousness to land. You have to think about your energy health. How are you maintaining this high energy? Because that's what this is. It is a high energy. But there is a clarification process to go from this to this, which is from this to this. And that is what A Course in Miracles tried to teach. That is what we are teaching. And you can get started below if you wish, for free. We love you. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next one. Ciao.